I got all the voters. I swear to God, I've been at it for a minute, climbing to the top, and this music was my ticket. Found a way to grind, turn a passion to a business. No limit, I'ma get it, having millions as a witness. I'm addicted to winning, living up every single day. I'll be fighting and building up in a million different ways. I don't think I can stop, I think I need the chase. I love to race, and I'm running till I'm first place. Long nights, long flights, I'ma make it big. Big dreams, big sights since I was a kid. Doing things that I like, let the pieces fit. I like the pain, feel alive when I'm under it. I could change, adapt, do what I need to. All these obstacles, they looking see-through. Don't let the anger out, just let it feed you. I'll see you at the top, just let me teach you. Yeah, I'ma be a high roller, move forward in the battle like soldier. In the game like closer, I'll be at the top of the chain, straight owner. Yeah, I got a different motor, I don't need any help, I'm a loner. You'll be seeing my name on posters, you could call me POTUS, I got all the voters. They be like, really, you got a milli from doing something silly? I'm like, chilly, I've been killing for decades now, Billy. Well, maybe like several years, but who's counting really? I just know how to turn something silly into a milli. Got a lot to say, and a lot need to hear it. You don't quit today, we don't stop, no, we feel it to the top. Yeah, we change our whole world, yeah, we steer it. Getting lost in the things that make us all worth hearing on. I'm the first one to turn up, learn stuff, but mostly I'm just in the lab getting work done. Cause the bills on the first, they still worth some. I never forget being broke, man, it hurts, son. But not as bad as not having any purpose. I took stabs, this and that, and it's working. But I still grind every day for that thirst. It's a curse being first, yeah, still gotta get my work done. Yeah, I'ma be a high roller, move forward in the battle like soldier. In the game like closer, I'll be at the top of the chain, straight owner. Yeah, I got a different motor, I don't need any help, I'm a loner. You'll be seeing my name on posters, you could call me POTUS, I got all the voters. Every minute with the fever dreams, I push a mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Stroke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact. Cause I'm my own worst enemy, only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny.
Hello and welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick, and happy, I guess, Friday the 13th. Another Friday the 13th. Um, didn't we just have one like not so long ago? I think maybe in January or something. I don't know. There's so many Friday the 13th coming up. It's like, what's going on? But we're here, and getting the show started a little late. Had a lot of technical difficulties with my computer, with the show. It was just a fucking mess. It took me like literally an hour to try to get everything like sorted out. Finally, I got it sorted out, but there's some kind of issue going on. I just don't have the patience for it. I really don't. But that's just a sign telling me that I'm going to need to take a break off of YouTube pretty soon. Um, I got a lot of important doctor's appointments coming up, and we'll figure it out what's going to be the plan moving forward. Definitely may have to take a break. But without further ado, let's get right to the news because there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and I wanted to be filled in on it. So let's go ahead and get this started. Let's set this up, and let's watch and enjoy.
Just moments ago, President Trump posting on Truth Social, the U.S. Central Command executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Karg Island. Now, why is Karg Island important? Here with me now is Nate Foy, live from Tel Aviv with the latest. Nate, this is directed at all the naysayers who say that the American military cannot open the Gulf and open the Straits of Hormuz. What is this telling you tonight?
Well, yeah, this is definitely an effort to protect shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Karg Island is an island in the Persian Gulf, as the United States, as you heard in the president's Truth Social, destroyed every military target there as they continue to try to degrade Iran's ballistic missile capabilities. However, Laura, we are seeing those capabilities persist with several rounds of ballistic missiles fired at Israel today. And in some cases, those cluster munitions that we've talked about have penetrated the air defenses in Israel. Take a look at this video from the outskirts of Tel Aviv. As you can see a fire here. Again, this was a cluster munition. There are no reports of injuries from this strike, but you can see that it caused a lot of damage. Now, not far away, another part of central Israel got hit. There are no reports of injuries here either, but in northern Israel, Laura, at least 58 people are hurt from an earlier Iranian missile attack. Now the U.S. and Israel are getting some reinforcements in the region. The USS Tripoli is on its way from Japan with 2,500 sailors and 2,500 Marines. It's expected to arrive in the next week or two. They will help protect U.S. bases and also, as we mentioned, go after Iran's ballistic missile capabilities. The U.S. and Israel have now struck more than 15,000 targets between the two of them. One strike today happened just down the street from where thousands of Iranians gathered for Al-Quds Day. Many here chanted death to America and death to Israel as they burned American flags and promised to resist U.S. forces. Now, we're also hearing tonight of explosions in Doha just in the past 20 minutes or so, Laura, as Qatar is announcing that it is going to evacuate residents in certain portions of the country because of Iran continuing to target its neighbors. We'll send it back to you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube.
Go ahead and keep it moving.
I want to do next is I want to send things to Fox's Rebecca Castor. We've been talking a lot about the conflict in Iran. She has a nice little encapsulation of what we've been tracking in recent hours. Here's Rebecca.
While thousands of regime supporters gather in the streets of Tehran Friday, signs of war are close by.
Today will be, yet again, the highest volume of strikes that America has put over the skies of Iran.
13 days into the mission, the Pentagon says Iran has no Navy, no Air Force, and its ability to respond with drones and missiles is down 90%. Now, U.S. forces are targeting Iran's defense companies that manufacture the regime's weapons.
We're targeting their defense industrial base so they cannot rebuild the capabilities that can harm America's interests.
The Pentagon is also sending additional troops and warships to the region. The USS Tripoli and the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, about 5,000 Marines and sailors total. This will give President Trump more options, especially while the Iranians continue to attack cargo ships in the Strait of Hormuz to block the flow of oil.
They want that focus on the Straits of Hormuz to put max pressure on the United States. So that becomes the pacing item for the war, not the achieving of our military objectives.
Some Democrats fear the administration is planning to send ground troops into Iran. But in a radio interview Friday, President Trump shot down reports that he's planning to send special forces in to get Iran's remaining uranium.
No, not at all. And we're not focused on that. But at some point we might be. Right now, we're focused on knocking the hell out of their missiles and their drones.
President Trump also says right now the U.S. is playing nice and could hit Iran harder by targeting its power plants, but he's choosing not to. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
The president just sent a Truth Social post out. It's a little lengthy. I'm going to read this. Moments ago, at my direction, the United States Central Command executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Karg Island. Our weapons are the most powerful and sophisticated that the world has ever known, but for reasons of decency, I have chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. During my first term and currently, I rebuilt our military into the most lethal, powerful, and effective force by far anywhere in the world. Iran has no ability to defend anything that we want to attack. There's nothing they can do about it. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, nor will it have the ability to threaten the United States of America, the Middle East, or for that matter, the world. Iran's military and all other involved with this terrorist regime would be wise to lay down their arms and save what's left of their country, which isn't much. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The president finishes.
Wow. Let's keep it moving. Some liberal hive mind.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day brought to you by 5mind.com. Again, I really don't want to make this victory lap situation, but it certainly is an I told you so moment. I've been sounding the alarm bells for years on the issue of Islamic extremism, and especially in connection to the southern border, leaving it wide open. Hey, terror cells, why not come on in? We're such good, compassionate liberals. I've been saying this is going to end in disaster. We're essentially allowing our enemies to sneak anyone that they want into the country. And I've taken it even beyond illegal immigration and warned about naive legal immigration, like I always say, cultural relativism, this soft leftist approach. And now here we are. It was bad a couple days ago when we had multiple terror attacks in the span of a week, but now to add even more on top of it, we just saw 2 Islamic terror attacks in a single day. One in Michigan, one in Dearborn, Michigan, which is no surprise to anyone, and the other in Norfolk, Virginia. And so you can imagine where we're going with this video. The sounding of the alarm continues. I'm asking the same questions. Are you paying attention yet? Well, if not, it's time to wake up, open your eyes, and start using your basic skills of perception. Let me update you guys on what's going on, and of course, let's have the conversation that is so desperately needed. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so the first story, we've got a mass shooting situation in Norfolk, Virginia. This happened at Old Dominion University. It appears a shooter came on scene, started indiscriminately firing into crowds. I believe 3 people were hit, 2 are injured as of right now, according to the reports, and 1 is dead. And from what I was able to gather from the situation, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the students on scene ended up subduing him alive. And now, of course, we've got a lot of information surrounding this individual. It started off with this eyewitness account.
The shooter, did they describe those people at all?
The description of the shooter, they said he was a Muslim man.
According to students on scene, they initially stated the shooter was Muslim. I'm not exactly sure where they got that information. Maybe they knew him. It's possible that he ran in and yelled Allah Akbar as they usually do. And then the speculation gets confirmed. We got news reports claiming that the shooter is named Mohammed Jallo, and this character apparently was a former Army National Guardsman who was arrested back in 2016 for feeding information, material support to ISIS. He's a naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone, and from what we understand, he was released from federal custody in 2024 under the Biden administration.
Authorities identify the suspect as Mohammed Jallo. He was convicted in 2017 for providing material support to ISIS and released from prison in 2024. He was a naturalized U.S. citizen from Sierra Leone. And federal court records showed Jallow told confidential sources he had thought about carrying out an attack and knew how to use guns.
And again, in these situations, it always comes to the same thought for me. This could have been so easily prevented. But instead, we live in woke freaking clown world Looney Tune land, where we treat characters like this apparently with kid gloves. You've got this character who's coordinating with ISIS, and he's somehow still in the country, which is, I'd say, the first red flag. But not only that, not only is he still in the country, he was released. Just go on your merry way, sir, and try not to engage in more terrorism, please, we ask. Again, la-di-da, latte, liberalism. I don't know about you guys, but in my world, if you're caught coordinating with terror organizations that are responsible for killing thousands of American citizens, that should get you denaturalized and deported on the spot, period. But this last leftist BS keeps dumping these monsters back on the streets. And now an innocent person is once again dead and 2 injured. Islamic terror attacks now becoming a daily occurrence, this time twice in a day. And now moving on to the next case, we're getting reports of apparently a psychopath from Lebanon, another naturalized citizen, who attempted to plow his car into a synagogue, with on-the-ground reports suggesting that he had explosives in his car.
Sources telling Fox News the truck that the suspect used to ram a Michigan synagogue is registered to a naturalized U.S. citizen, this time from Lebanon, who lives in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn has been in the headlines as a very, very predominantly Muslim community with a Muslim community leader.
And from what I understand about this situation, again, all this information is very fluid at this point. It appears somebody on scene was armed and I believe acted quick and neutralized the threat before more damage could be done, but it appears he had the intention of wreaking havoc with a large amount of explosives. The suspect in this case is confirmed dead, but it is now confirmed another Islamic act of terror. The truck is registered to a naturalized citizen from Lebanon, an individual from Dearborn, Michigan. And so once again, the threat light is flashing bright red, and it's flashing aggressively. And it always comes back to the same topic, immigration. And again, I want to expand the conversation of the immigration issue. I want to expand the scope a little bit because there's so much emphasis and focus on illegal migration, and Democrats attempt to pin right-wingers against the wall to only ever speaking about illegal immigration. But no, the problem is two-sided. Illegal immigration obviously is an undeniably massive problem, but these two individuals were naturalized. We got a legal immigration problem as well, folks, and it's the same thing I've been saying. We're turning a blind eye to ideological threats. This is what mass migration brings into the country. This is what a passive, overly sympathetic worldview gets you. Both of these monsters were naturalized citizens, and that's why I keep yelling. There are massive problems in terms of legal immigration policy as well. The Japanese are the only ones doing it right now. Immigration needs to be extremely limited, and I mean extremely limited. Only the most exceptionally badass people from stable corners of the world, in my view, should be considered. But instead, we have this leftist worldview that any standard or any preference, any protectionist view is fear-mongering, it's bigotry, it's racism. But it's not. It's common frickin' sense. It's self-preservation. We are opening the door to ideological poison, to threat, to subversive cultures. And in this case, it's beyond subversive. And we're talking a culture that is aggressively antagonistic to everything that we believe in. The problem is Islam, people. You got all kinds of religious groups across the world, and I don't have a single issue with any of them. But there is one group, and it's not to say again that every Muslim believes in the same thing, but there are over 1 billion Muslims across the world, and a healthy percentage of them believe in seriously radical things. They want to destroy Western civilization. They want you to conform to their religion or else face death, the goal of which is to install a global caliphate. And the idea that we would open the doors to these antagonistic, these very dangerous ideological threats, it makes no frickin' sense whatsoever. That is the problem. That's the elephant in the frickin' room that most people are too scared to talk about. Well, are you awake yet? Are you paying attention yet? How many terror attacks is it going to take? But of course, if you listen to the left, they'll never even mention it. No, the problem is evil Donald Trump.
Between Muslims in the West, Muslims and the people of the Jewish faith, in large part because of what's happening in Iran. And you have to wonder about the connectedness. You have to wonder about the ways in which this environment further radicalizes people. And you have to wonder fundamentally about the degree to which this White House, which has been caught completely flat-footed on a war of choice, really has the personnel in place and actually the interest in keeping Americans safe. Because thus far, the data that we've been given, whether it's the Pentagon downplaying the brutality of the attack that killed the 6 American service members in Kuwait, whether it is the president wearing a baseball cap to a dignified transfer, whether it is the way in which he talks about the collateral damage of war, it doesn't give you a sense that the safety and the security of the American people is paramount. What we have found in the past week is that it's all about Donald Trump and him maintaining this sort of stranglehold he has on power, and everything else is up for grabs.
Anything but pointing the finger at the ideology and the actual scumbags that are responsible for these heinous terror attacks. It's absolutely insane, and I'm seeing the most moronic takes across social media. I mean, classic victim blaming. Well, if Trump hadn't hit Iran, this would have never happened. What kind of argument is that? If Trump didn't take on this psychotic Islamic regime that's been threatening us for decades and killing Americans, then none of this would have happened. Like I always say, the way these people will twist themselves into a pretzel to flip the narrative to justify and defend terrorism, anything to blame Trump, they're out of their damn minds. And if anything, Trump's the one waking people up. Trump's attacks on Iran, I think, should really wake people up. Just goes to show the threat that we're dealing with. The virus that has now infiltrated our world. They've installed terror cells in your country. And the left wants to point the finger at President Trump. Folks, that's what, 4 or 5 terror attacks in a week and a half? I mean, what's the argument here? Just surrender to radical Islam? Oh, well, if we just gave up and surrendered, if we started forcing all of our women to wear burqas and started praying 17 times a day, well, then they wouldn't be killing us, now would they? You absolute freaking cowards. Trump's action in Iran, I hope, is waking you up. You got U.S. forces taking on the world's leading state sponsor of terror, and we're of course doing so by hitting military targets. It's not to say that there's no casualties and acts of war, but we are explicitly and very clearly going after military targets, and the response is to activate a bunch of ideological freaks to start just indiscriminately shooting innocent civilians. Wake up. We've turned a blind eye for too long. We've been too naive, too ideological, too compassionate, and this is the result of that misguided sympathy and compassion. Oh, and actually, last minute clarification here. I said earlier that the shooter was subdued by students on the scene and attack in Norfolk, Virginia. This is true, but I think I implied that the shooter was actually taken into custody, or he's alive. I can now confirm, based on the FBI's statements, that the students who actually subdued the Old Dominion University shooter, well, it appears they actually snuffed the threat.
There were students who were in that room that subdued him and rendered him no longer alive. I don't know how else to say it, but they basically were able to terminate the threat.
So he was not shot.
He was not shot.
Just a relevant update. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Wow. Like, I would put myself in that position, right? And one of my fellow soldiers has gone AWOL and starts killing other soldiers. What would you do? I know what I would do. The same thing with the ones that killed him would have done. Without hesitation. Especially screaming that I'll bark shit. Oh, I would have taken him out in a heartbeat. But there's a lot more of this terroristic acts that's going to be happening. I see churches are in danger. And we're talking about all churches, not just a certain group. I think all churches are, because a lot of people go to churches and a lot of people kind of like put their guard down because they're supposed to be in a safe place, But there's opportunistics that's going to take the initiative and attack a church. I just see it. They already hit up a couple of synagogues already, and this country, listen, you guys never fought a war before. You guys don't even have fucking military training. I do. I never fought a war. Hell no. I never fought a war. But I have military training. And and I was a U.S. soldier here. I was in the army, and I got injured, severely injured, during training. I was doing some training and stuff, and I fucked up my whole leg. Well, I fucked up my ankle. I fucking like broke it like bad, and they had no choice but to medically discharge me. I was fucking pissed. I was pissed because like I really wanted to be in there, but I broke my ankle and I was fucked. And let me tell you, those cortisone and pain shots to the ankle was not fucking fun. My doctor, she was like, she's like she numbed it as much as possible, but she hit me with that fucking medicine, and man, it was so hard to walk, and I couldn't run, couldn't do anything. Doctor was like, yeah, he's gonna have to be medically discharged. I was like, what? And she told my captain that, like, actually the what's his name? Always forgot his name. He was a sergeant, but I forgot his fucking name. Uh, he was you could tell he was a naturalized immigrant because he was Spanish as hell, and he had a strong accent. Damn, I'm sorry. I apologize. I forgot his name. Uh, and the thing is, I trained. I trained so much. I ran. I used to run cross country in high school, so I was very athletic. I had very good concentration. They had me signed up for the 82nd Airborne. I was already qualified. Like I was already like it was just, and then I fucking destroyed my leg, my ankle, and it's just fucking changed my life and put me on a different path. If not, I probably would have still been in the military. I probably would be at this war. To be honest with you, at my age, and if I wasn't fucked up and damaged, um, I probably would be at this somewhere around this war. And I'd be like, hot damn, I can't wait to go and do some damage. I mean, my God, like what's going on over there? And accidents are happening, things are happening, um, friendly fire is happening, and mistakes. They gotta get their shit. I wonder if they're not sleeping properly. Um, that's was endurance, and because you gotta understand these sirens and alarms, they go off very frequently, and it's not easy trying to get any sleep with all those sirens going off. Like I know the Israelis are not sleeping good, and I'm pretty sure they're sleeping, like trying to get their sleep and sneak in some sleep throughout the day, because at night it's pretty active. Um, but they need, like I don't want to jump to all over the place, but that's how my brain is going right now. My brain is telling me to say they need to get rid of Mandani out of New York City immediately. If they do not, I'm telling you right now, they're putting New Yorkers in danger. If you live in New York, you're fucked. And even here in Connecticut, we got to be careful with these motherfuckers because there's a lot of them here and they're all around. And it's very concerning. And I really hope that they could get these people like mass exodus, like everybody who's illegal, everybody, if you're in this country illegally, Like, you need to go. And if you don't go, we're going to get you and we're going to make you go. So the money that we were going to give you to leave and go back to your country, well, now that money, we're going to keep it. We're going to arrest you, go through the whole process, and then send your ass back home with nothing. I think they should be running to the airports, but I don't think it's a good idea to go to the airports now because our government is full of shit. The Democrats are just not wanting to fund what's going on, and they don't want to fund TSA. They don't want to fund anything. Like, what is going, like, how these individuals are going to live? Like, how are they going to live? They need money. They need to pay their bills. They need to put gas. Like, there's a lot of things going on. Like, I'm telling you right now, all these TSA agents, they're quitting. They're fed up with this shit. Like, I don't think that TSA and Homeland Security and all this stuff should be bundled up together, and why it's affecting our air traffic controllers and our fucking TSA agents. If I was them, and this is how you make the biggest fucking impact, because we the people have power. Government thinks they have power and they could just stop paying you out of the blue. Well, guess what you could do out of the blue? Not go to work. Everybody at the airport, no show. At every airport. Let's see what the Democrats will do then. All airplanes got to be grounded. No flights can take off if you don't have no air traffic controller. If you have no baggage, like the baggage people, you don't have no maintenance. You don't have no nothing. Nobody shows up to work. And let's see how the Democrats will flip. We're going to see them flip like fucking pancakes. They're going to flip-flop. Because we have power. They think they have power. Because they take our money and they're doing whatever the fuck they want. But we have power. We, us, all of us. We have the power. We have the power. We got to... Listen, they're not getting paid. They're not getting paid anyways. They're like, yeah, but we're going to pay you back. We'll give you the back pay. Not if I have 5 kids and they all got to eat. And mama don't got the money to pay for it. Which mama should have had her priorities straight. Especially if you're a TSA agent. I think that is a responsibility of them to make sure that their finances are taken care of at least for like 3 months in advance, because shit like this can happen. And it only affects the fucking TSA, air traffic controllers, Homeland Security. ICE is funded, so they're trying to put in ICE into that shit, but they're funded. Homeland Security should be funded. There's no excuse for that. I don't care how you feel politically. I don't care how you feel like what they're doing is wrong and bad. And no, you're putting everyone's life in jeopardy because you don't want to fund the security of our country. Like, boom. No one showed up to work. All air traffic controllers, all TSA agents, all agents of the airports, every personnel, everybody, lock the motherfucking doors. This place is fucking shut down throughout the whole country. And let's see how they will like when they have their strike. What the Democrats are going to do. You want to play stupid games? Well, guess what, motherfucker? Game on. I accept that challenge any day of the week. Fuck these motherfuckers. They think they have power over us. They think they could control us. They can control the purse because of their feelings, because how they feel in Washington. Like I say, and I always will say, fuck your feelings. People gotta get paid. People got mouths to feed. People got bills to pay. People got homes. People got insurance. People got like it's a and that it's just a chain reaction. I'm gonna show you a video coming up. Hopefully, it'll show what I'm talking about. A lot of crazy shit going on. Lines at the airport. If you're flying, you're fucked. If you're flying anywhere this summer, you're fucked. I don't think I'm gonna go down to Florida. I don't think I'm gonna go unless the thing with the train is it hurts, man. I don't think I could ride the train because it's so bumpy. And I have vertical. I guess that's what they call vertical, but like motion sickness when like moving like that. Like I have no control, and I'm just like I have a problem with that. Like airplanes are not too bad because I could distract myself, but the bumping it is a problem with the airplane, but not as much with the train. The train is very bumpy and very like I don't think I could get on one of those because my neck is really fucked up. So I don't think I could get on that. But I don't think I'm gonna be going down to Florida this year. Not if the TSA and everything is like the way it is right now. I don't feel confident in traveling and giving up my money to pay for a service that the government thinks that they can control. You know? Like why is the airports tied into the government that tied in so deep that if something like goes sideways like how it is right now, that they got the rights and the ability to shut the country down and not pay anybody like in TSA or air traffic controllers or anybody that works in the airport. Something's not right, you know? But I think this is a great way to set an example. Fucking strike. Go on a strike. Just walk out and picket the fuck out of that airport. Like every employee, everybody, even the fucking passengers would join in the fucking protests. Because they ain't going nowhere. Their trip, if they don't have insurance, hopefully they could get their money back and because this is a ripple effect. It doesn't just affect us Americans, it affects everyone around the world because our planes just don't fly in the United States. It flies everywhere. But guess what? If there's nobody to attend any planes leaving, guess what? They can't really land anybody here. So all those flights coming out of Europe, coming out of Asia, coming out of anywhere in the world that's coming here to the United States, guess what? Our airports will be closed. Our airspace is closed. No planes flying. That'll be something. I remember when that happened on 9/11. Oh, we forgot about 9/11 because you guys voted Mandani to be a mayor of New York City. And I feel like that election was rigged. Prove me wrong. YouTube, censor me if you want. You done it before. Fuck you. It's my mind over your matter. And I see a lot of things. I hear a lot of things. And Mandani is not good for America. It's not good for New York City. They rigged that election. They have many people who multiple times voted. Like I'm telling you, they need to audit the voting logs and the voting, like all the votes. They got to review it because I guarantee you, there's going to be a lot of people who shouldn't have not voted in that election. Mandani should not have won that election. Prove me wrong. Yeah, because nobody's watching. That's why you can't prove me wrong. Nobody watched. Nobody's listened. I already told this by Censor Priest, so I already know nobody listens. But that's on you, not on me. You listen, you prosper. You don't, that's fine. I tell you right now, don't be too busy. Don't get sucked into the system. It's pretty weird knowing that you have people in Washington that control us. They think they have control over us. They don't have control. They think they do. And these Democrats, they're too infiltrated. They're too soft. I wonder what made them flip. The money? I think the money. Because they're all like multimillionaires. And you wonder why. And they're multimillionaires from our money. Not their money. It's the people's money. And they think they have power. And the one that has ultimate power is the president. But they're going to try to stall him. They're going to try to slow him down. They're going to try to do everything. It was whatever. They don't care. They're going to try to do everything they can. If they had if Trump didn't did what he did, the Democrats would have imagine if the Democrats were in power, what Iran would have been with another 4 years of the United States giving them money. Like it was like raining money from a plane. They would send jumbo jets with no seats, no nothing but pallets of money. That's what they were doing. And imagine if Kamala would have won another 4 years of that shit. Like we would have been so gone backwards. And you see how the Democrats are trying to slow Trump down in every single way. They're trying to subpoena and you have to come to Congress, Rubio and Vance and everyone and the whole administration. You got to come here and explain yourself to us, Democrats here. We got questions. Maxine Water, you have questions too, AOC. Everyone, we all have questions. Even Jeffries and all these motherfuckers, they think they all have something to say. They all have something to say. Like they all have assholes. Same thing. Shit coming out of both places, out of their ass and out of their mouths. Go figure. They're full of shit. The swamp is filled, it's filled with swamp creatures. Like they're infiltrated in both parties. There's a lot of them in the Republicans and there's a lot of them in the Democrats, and they infiltrated. And it's like the invasion. You gotta catch them because they're already in. They're within us. They're in our government. They're controlling the purse. Look what they have done to TSA and all these, like the airports and stuff. For how many times they done this already? Then they did this the last midterm, and they fucked with TSA and all Homeland Security, everybody. You know, like traffic controllers, air traffic controllers weren't fucking paid for months and months and months and months. We just went through this. And now they're doing it again to these people. You know how to make this all turn against the Democrats real quick? No one shows up to work. How about no one shows up to work? and just send a clear message to Washington. You don't control us. You may think you do, but you don't. And I think there needs to be a audit on the election rule. I think they need to check the voter logs and make sure that the people who voted and that they truly did vote it, and make sure that no dead people are in the voter logs, no, and especially that voted, or individuals that are non ID showing should be count, because there's a lot of people with no ID voted in this past election. Prove me wrong. Especially in New York City. You don't need an ID to vote in New York City. You just need to be there. That's it. That's how Mandani got into the mayorship. Then you think, look, all those illegals by the millions went to New York City by the busloads. Like millions upon millions of people that were staying in fucking 5-star hotels. Illegal immigrants, 5-star hotels. And who was paying for that? Yep, the taxpayers of New York City. How you feel about that, New York? And all these people that they brought into New York City, guess what? You say what? They voted in this last election. And they pushed Mandani to the front. Prove me wrong. I'm a good psychic. Like, Trump should hire me. I think Trump, listen, I just feel the energy. I know. I follow up on a lot of news. I listen. I feel the vibrations. I just know things. I just do. Nobody listens to me. I got 0 people watching. It's being recorded, so hopefully it goes into someone's ears there who's listening in the NSA. Listen, just take care of me, take care of my cats, and I could be very helpful. Very, very helpful. But we got some videos to watch here. Actually, let's watch this one. Melody King. It's been a while, girl. I like the hair today. It's a wig. Yeah, her real hair. She has nice hair, but she wears these wigs and she puts all this makeup and stuff, and she looks very gorgeous. But let's get to this video here. Melody King talking about the breaking here, and all traffic at 3 major Washington, D.C. area airports have been halted after a strong chemical smell was detected at the Air Traffic Control Center at the Potomac Tricon. So basically, there was like some kind of order, and they don't know what it was, and they shut down 3 airports. Wait, you're gonna see something here, and let's watch this video.
More craziness happening at the airports, guys, with the shutdown, with the government shutdown that basically defunds TSA agents. They are not getting paid. Well, now we have this to worry about. It says breaking air traffic at all 3 major Washington, D.C. area airports has been halted after a strong chemical smell was detected at the Air Traffic Control Center at the Potomac Tricon. No word on what the substance in the air is. America's on edge and DHS is still closed. Infuriating. So that's just their official statement. But we're seeing this. This actually, there was a chemical smell that happened at Disneyland as well. People had to be
Yeah,
taken to the hospital.
I heard
Workers.
about
There
that
is just a
too
lot going on now.
in
There's
Disneyland.
an active shooter at a school in LA. I mean, the list goes on and on. But when I told you that things are going to continue to get worse, if they don't fund these TSA agents, I don't see any end in sight. Plus, we know with the Strait of Hormuz, we know with the war, United Airlines and everyone has said airfares are about to spike through the roof. It is going to be insanity. So not only will you be in line for hours at a time, but on top of that, your airfare, anything that you've paid in the past, it is going to, I mean, surge astronomically. There's a lot of estimates of where it could go, but it depends on how long this war lasts. I don't see them opening the Strait of Hormuz anytime soon, but I want to show you a couple videos of what it's actually looking like at these airports.
How did I show up almost 6 hours early for my flight and still stressed about missing it? No, seriously. Look at this. This video is sped up 2.6x and it's still taking forever. Child, the TSA line was so long, it went from check-in, past baggage claim, and all the way down to passenger pickup. Like, huh? At this point, the line looks like it's about to leave the airport itself, okay? And you know the lines were long because from time to time, you had people set up in little carts passing out waters and snacks to keep us from passing out. Because some of us had been standing in line for 4 hours. Even the news showed up because I don't think anybody has ever seen anything like this before. So apparently, travelers flying out of the Houston Hobby Airport are dealing with hour-long TSA lines because of the staffing shortages tied to the government shutdown. When I tell you, it feels like these people just said, y'all got it, and left the rest of us to figure it out ourselves. The wild part is 2.2 million people are expected to fly through or to Houston this month alone. So I am curious about how this is about to play out for the long term. Because if this is the preview, girl. Now, granted, I had a time in Houston. Houston don't owe me nothing. I enjoyed myself, but I am not going to lie. This line might make me rethink coming back anytime soon because how you show up 5.5 hours early and still feel like you're about to miss your flight? At this point, the plane might leave, come back, and I'll still be in line. And just in case you haven't noticed, the line is still going.
Damn.
Now, TSA sources are telling News 4 that it's gotten so bad that some workers are sleeping in their cars outside of airports, including Dulles International, because those workers can't pay rent or afford gas to drive around.
I know that's
my God.
No doubt. It's a stressful enough job as it is. You're
Yeah,
looking
but
for
they should have
bombs,
a
you're looking for
special
weapons,
credit
right?
card for that.
Now you have
man.
the added stress of how am I going to feed my family tomorrow? How am I going to put gas in my car?
A senior TSA official confirms an internal report to NBC News that around 300 officers have now quit, and many, many more are calling out sick. That's part of the issue that's been causing long lines at some TSA checkpoints across the country.
Why are we even here if we're not going to get paid for it?
Martina Santana, a transportation security officer, doesn't know the next time she'll receive a full paycheck. The last one was minimal.
People saying they got $4.25 paycheck, a $13 paycheck, a $70 paycheck.
Department of Homeland Security funding has been frozen since mid-February as Senate Democrats and Republicans continue to disagree on the 2026 budget. This comes not long after a 43-day shutdown last fall.
Everybody was thinking it wasn't going to be a long one this time. They did it just before. It can't happen twice.
The local TSA union representative, Jovan Petkovich, tells me some Phoenix workers are still fighting for back pay corrections from the last shutdown.
Being basically backstabbed, being abandoned basically by our leaders.
Absences and resignations are increasing.
In the first 2 weeks, we lost 8 officers.
All while travel surges for spring break.
Eventually, people are going to get exhausted. Eventually, people are going to reach breaking.
So you see the impact that this is having on real Americans, real families, people sleeping in their cars because I guess they've lost their homes. They've lost their apartments. They're no longer able to afford to even
Democrats
live.
don't want us to be happy.
This is what is happening right now, all while the war is going on. And this is why I wanted to cover this story, because I don't want this to be overlooked as to what is going on. And then as we have more terrorist threats that they're calling them, a lot of people think it's false flags. I think a lot of it are false flags for the most part. But still, as those things ratchet up as real threats that happen, because I believe some could be real as well, But as those things happen, think of how bad will continue to be. And these are the people that make sure that that there's safety, that we're safe getting onto planes. And now that we have the highest level of threats, of terroristic threats, right? The people that check and make sure that no one's getting anything onto a plane that could for them to hijack the plane or bomb a plane or bring a gun, whatever it might be. Well, those people that are no longer showing up to work, they're calling now, they're defunded, they're not getting paid. So even the people that are left, they are just, think of the morale, think of what is probably passing through or what could possibly get through. Do you see how this is a perfect storm for something to really happen on these airplanes, on our airplanes, in our skies? I mean, is everyone forgetting about 9/11? Like my mother, I told you guys, my mother, her office was hit in the Pentagon on 9/11. I kid you not. This was a huge deal. But now, so if you think about this, it's almost, if you really want to say this, and I cannot prove this, but it almost feels orchestrated, right? That while we have the highest terrorist threat, while we're have the war going on with Iran, and this high terrorist threats, we're getting daily, multiple times a day of these different activities happening. I think the University of Virginia and I want to say George Mason University, they had bomb threats this morning. As you're seeing, because it's not just the airlines, we're seeing in schools, we're seeing in churches, synagogues, everywhere we're seeing all of this take place. So we have these highest threats, but then they just so happen to be defunded. The TSA agents that are needed for security, which, do you see how this is a recipe that someone could bypass, somebody could get something on the plane while security is more lax? And these people are exhausted, working all of these hours, and they're not able to even feed their families or have a home to go to. It's disgusting.
That's slavery.
Hey, I just arrived at Austin Airport to finish South by Southwest, and the line for TSA pre-clear, so that is supposed to be the fastest line to get through pre-check, was out the door, around the corner. Like, here we are.
Wow, look at that line.
All the way out the door.
Oh my God.
Our flight leaves in an hour. I just got a message saying, please arrive 3 hours early because of delays.
We're in the parking garage. This isn't even through the airport or downstairs. Let's now move.
They're not going to be able to get
The back of the
nowhere.
line.
Nobody's flying nowhere.
Inside the airport.
Nobody's flying. As much as you want to go somewhere, you ain't going nowhere.
This is insane.
You're staying ass home. Look at that fucking line. Hell no. I don't think so. Nope, you couldn't pay me. Fuck
Look
that.
at the line, y'all. Y'all coming
That
to the
is
airport?
outside the airport. Look at the
ABIA?
fucking line.
It's all the way back here.
Hell no. Oh, no.
Have you ever seen lines going through a parking lot and then being outside? Guys,
That's
this is
crazy.
at multiple airports. Everyone was talking about Austin today, Dallas, but it's in a lot of the major cities, and that's going to continue to trickle out. That's going to continue to spread unless they can do something about this shutdown. But everyone's focused on the war, and I think they actually just asked for another $50 billion for the war, and they're deploying. It was reported earlier 2,500 troops, but now it's 5,000. So we are going to have boots on the ground, and things will continue to get more expensive as we're seeing economic collapse all around the world because specifically the Strait of Hormuz. But we've talked about that so much. But I'll just show you this last. I think this is from Dallas, that the video I'm about to play. No, sorry, this is Austin, but you can just look it up. You'll see Dallas. You'll see everywhere where this is happening.
It's everywhere.
They're gonna leave.
Every airport. Look at that.
And so they
Holy
don't leave,
shit.
then wherever they're going, that
Ooh, hell no. They even have lights out there to light up. Because it's just dark. Look at that. Oh my God.
We are in crazy times. We're headed for more crazy times, but we have to keep our.
She's gonna be selling her stuff. This is the end of the show. It looks like, yeah. So Melody, thank you for the upload, girl. You got a lot of stuff to sell. But you saw that line? Hell no. It's outside the airport in the fucking parking lot of the airport. And people are wrapped around the fucking like levels of the fucking parking lot just to go through security. Are you fucking kidding me? Hell to the no. I ain't going nowhere. Fuck that. You want to talk to me? You video call me. I'm gonna do something local. Like can't fucking travel on the airplane right now. And you gotta understand, the maintenance people are not getting paid either. The people that fucking fixes the airplanes and keep the airplanes running, those fuelers, all those people, they don't get paid. That is a travesty that these airports are so tied into the government, and it's so despicable that the government, like the Democrats, can just come and just like stop paying them and cause all this like ruckus and havoc, and then blame it on Trump. It's like, wait a minute, what? You're the ones that are fucking don't want to fucking pass the SAFE Act. You don't want to pass the bills that need to go to Trump's desk because you don't want the SAFE Act. Because you want illegals to vote. And in our country, you don't want illegals. Well, you want illegals to vote. Are you kidding me? So the ones that were born here, we're second fiddle to the immigrants. So we got to put them in a pedestal. So here's your illegal immigrants. Give them all the 5-star hotels and give them thousands upon thousands upon thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into their card and buy all the food you want because you got like $5,000 in food, and here's another $20,000 for you in cash. Don't worry, you don't need to pay it back. Where in this country did we do this? This is the only place in this whole world that would pay someone to live here and give them $20,000 cash and $5,000 in food, and here's free clothes and free house and a free car, and everything's free for you. Yay! You won the immigrant lottery. But make sure to vote Democrat when elections come. You gotta be fucking kidding me, man. It's a travesty. All right, let's keep it moving. We've got some more to watch here.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day brought to you by 5mind.com. Friends, it appears we have a major development here. It appears the Chinese regime is now getting cold feet. I'm spending a lot of time thinking about the position that Iran is in right now. You know, for years, people kept saying that Tehran had a safety net. They had kind of like a security guarantee to a certain extent. They had powerful friends. They had China. They had Russia backing them up. You know, we always hear talking points about the world moving away from the petrodollar. BRICS is rising up. The rise of Iran, Russia, China, India, Brazil. I guess we could call it this supposed anti-US bloc that was being set up just in case things got serious. And that was the theory, that collectively they could stand up and protect themselves. But that, of course, is theory, and theory is always different than practice. And I guess you could say President Trump is now testing that theory, and we are getting in real time some very, very clear results to this little test. You know, now that the war has escalated in Iran, it appears as though reality looks quite different from theory. You know, we expected China and Russia to be rushing in to defend them, but instead we're getting something entirely different. Of course, we've been speaking about how China and Russia have mostly been MIA, although they have done the Ted Cruz thing. They've issued some strongly worded statements, but in terms of action, they've done absolutely nothing No, it appears they've kind of just left Iran to their own devices, which of course isn't necessarily new. It appears they've done the same thing in Venezuela. But now to make matters worse, we have Chinese officials now coming out and condemning Iran. Yeah, I'd say it's not a good day to be an IRGC thug. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into. So let's roll the tape. Well, folks, it appears we finally got some action from China. And well, it's not exactly what you expect. Now we have the Chinese government hitting us with this statement where they're essentially condemning Iran and their attacks on Gulf states.
The new leader in Iran was announced at the weekend. President Donald Trump has said, quote, that he might not last long, and Israel vowed to target any of the new leaders in Iran. I wonder if you have any comment on this. Thank you.
China opposes interference in other countries' internal affairs under any pretext. Iran's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity should be respected. China calls for an immediate end to the military operations, return to dialogue and negotiations as soon as possible, and no further escalation of tension.
You know, let that sink in for a second. Iran is under massive military pressure. Their leadership is essentially evaporated, non-existent, and they're launching this response, this counteroffensive. They're fighting for their life. It's a real existential crisis for them. And China, their supposed biggest ally, their most powerful superpower backer, their most important strategic partner, comes in not saying, oh, we're going to defend you, comes in saying, calm down. What are you friggin' psychopaths doing? Yeah, my friends, that's not what a real ally does when you're in a war. And it kind of just shows, you know, the Chinese regime only really cares about themselves. Let's be real. Iran gave them oil, but Iran, for the most part, is expendable, just like China probably doesn't really care what happens to the North Korean regime on their border. The only reason they tolerate North Korea is because of the communist alignment, certainly, but also because, well, North Korea has friggin' nukes. At the end of the day, China's going to do what it's got to do to save its own skin. And I mean, the idea that China would stick its neck out for an Islamic regime. Yeah, obviously that was never going to happen. We already know how the Chinese regime views Islam. They're tearing down mosques at record speed, and their little relationship with Iran was about one thing and one thing alone, and that's oil. But now again, you have Iran in an existential crisis mode, and their allies have totally abandoned them, just like we saw with Venezuela, and frankly, kind of what we're seeing with Cuba as well. You know, there's talk of the regime falling, and Trump hasn't exactly held himself back. No, he's been pretty explicit when it comes to his interest and his plans to move on the Cuban regime. And of course, this is another extremely close ally of China, right? Well, what have they done? Well, they released a statement today. Breaking: China and Cuba have agreed to boost bilateral ties just 6 days after President Trump said Cuba will fall pretty soon. They issued a public statement declaring that they've agreed to boost their bilateral ties. What does that even mean? That means literally nothing. And this, of course, is really all that we're going to see from China, because China knows, they understand that if they start sending weapons to Iran, if they start funding their war effort, if they start doing the same thing in Venezuela and Cuba, if they start actively helping in a war against the United States, well, it's no longer proxy politics. That is effectively choosing a side in a direct confrontation in a war with America. And Beijing absolutely does not want that. A huge portion of their economy depends on exports to the United States and, of course, the Western market as a whole. In fact, their entire economic model is built around that. Yeah, picking a fight with the Western world, that would probably mean the immediate implosion of their economy. And also, none of this is happening in a vacuum. No, people forget the important context here. China is no stable superpower. They're a superpower mostly because of their population size and landmass and natural resources. When it comes to the actual quality and stability of their economy, it really isn't a pretty picture. And they've been walking on a tightrope over the last couple of years, really since COVID, let's say the last 6 years. COVID itself completely hammered their economy. And what followed that was a massive real estate collapse. You got huge property developers that went bankrupt. Then they got hit with tariffs, which makes them a whole lot less competitive on the world stage, especially considering the fact that Trump already had tariffs on them that Joe Biden left in place. Then he added some more, which were higher than what you see applied on other nations. They've been scouring to find solutions, attempting to use other countries as proxies to have less tariffs. I mean, obviously, you guys know what's going on there. And now to add insult to injury, or insult after insult after insult to the initial injury, they lost Venezuela. And now look what's happening in Iran. Those are the two oil reserve nations that their economy was totally dependent on. Well, as it stands right now, they don't have that anymore. They have whatever the Iranian regime was able to desperately move through the Strait of Hormuz before the conflict with America really escalated. Venezuela's basically gone. How else can you describe it? So you've got two major energy relationships destabilized at the exact same time on top of everything else. We're already seeing the impact. It's total panic in China. You got Chinese citizens lining up at gas stations, desperately trying to fuel up. Honestly, the videos that are dropping right now look like the 1970s American oil crisis.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of cars. Damn, for the gas station.
Their back is against the wall, and frankly, I don't think they know what to do. Again, China and Russia were supposed to be Iran's security guarantee, but it appears they can't guarantee jack squat. Look, again, like I keep telling you guys in these videos, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't want to issue declarative statements, and so I'm very careful with my language. How can I phrase this? What Trump is doing here on the world stage appears as if it might be a foreign policy masterclass, unlike anything we've ever seen before. And yeah, of course, I get it. I'm paying attention to the doomsayers, as I like to call them, but I just really don't give their words too much credit. I mean, how many times was Trump supposed to fail? A total economic collapse is upon us because of Donald Trump's tariffs. I mean, the tariff conversation is obviously the most relevant and most recent example. The panic that's happening right now reminds me a lot of what we saw during the tariff situation. Remember how every expert said that tariffs would never work. Tariffs would benefit China, they said, and it would weaken America on the world stage. And they all pointed to the same historical example, Masmoot Ali. Ooh, Masmoot Ali. I am so smoot. Have you ever heard of Smoot Ali? You absolute MAGA dumbass. But you're comparing apples to oranges. America coming off the Great Depression in the 1930s in a completely different economy, not to mention the way tariffs were applied, totally different than what Trump's doing. It's obvious the experts didn't understand the strategy. And clearly there was and still is a strategy behind the Trump tariffs. No matter how much the big brain brainiac experts continue to suggest that there isn't. He didn't go in and tariff one nation. No, he tariffed everyone all at once. And that changed the leverage equation entirely. Well, what we're seeing now, I think, kind of translates in a way. You got all these people who point at, neocon regime change and endless wars of the past and say, ooh, the same thing, it'll lead to the same result. But this is entirely different. And again, it's everyone and everything all at once. He's not just invading a nation and creating a Call of Duty freaking war zone, guerrilla warfare, fighting on the streets of Afghanistan and getting hit by freaking roadside bombs, fighting in alleys with snipers all over the place. No, this is strategic and it's global, it's overarching, it's on the top. He's hitting all of them. He's saying, China, you want to keep playing games? You no longer have oil. He's cutting off the source, then doing the same thing politically in Iran. I mean, just recently they bombed Iran's oil refineries. They can pump as much as they want out of the dirt, but if you can't refine the product, you're basically screwed. He's applying pressure on China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, all at once, and it's all kind of having these intermingled effects that's putting everybody in a position of overt weakness and allowing him to basically run circles around them. Instead of dealing with them one by one, the pressure campaign is hitting them all at the same time and hitting them where it hurts without risking mass American life. To compare that to the neocon regime changes of old, it's just not the same thing. I refuse to believe that it's the same thing. Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and claim that, oh, it's going to work, it's going to be the greatest thing ever, but I'm also not going to pretend that it's guaranteed to fail. No, it appears as if it's working pretty damn well, I'll tell you that. And clearly, this is a massive gamble. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Making moves like this carries enormous risk, just like the tariffs did. But I'm also continuously asking myself, what if it works? What if the pressure he's applying starts fracturing some of these alliances? What if all of these despot regimes that have pretended as if they're all kind of under the same banner, truly aligned, what if they start realizing that this whole anti-American bloc thing is a total facade? It's a mirage. What if they suddenly start realizing that they're actually isolated and they need to start making some serious diplomatic compromises? There's a lot of what ifs, and that's kind of what what I'm accounting for. It's what I'm trying to pay attention to and follow and figure out what's going on here. And it seems like other people, they're not interested in having the what if conversation. No, they have a crystal ball. I find the whole thing ridiculous. You know, for me, again, only time will tell. I'm rooting for this president 100%. I'm not going to sit here and predict absolute disaster and calamity, and I'm not going to predict guaranteed success either. But one thing I wish is that the mainstream media at large would spend more time focusing on all of this stuff that's signaling a massive shift in global order in a very positive way, or at least potentially positive way. But no, of course, they spend all their time dismissing this president, this incessant focus on everything negative and pinning failures to his administration. In many cases, they're just overtly pushing Chinese, Russian, and Iranian propaganda. They want to keep bringing on all the experts to tell you exactly how this whole thing is going to backfire, and there's no positive outcome at the end of the tunnel. But obviously, this is a very bold move. It's a multifaceted strategy. This president is taking a seriously massive risk. And like they say, no risk, no reward. You can't achieve anything significant, frankly, without taking massive risks. That's how the history that we studied was shaped. We might just be living through history. Again, if you actually pay attention to the subtle signals, if you pay attention to not only what's happening in Iran, but what's happening with his allies, we might very well be on the cusp of a completely new global dawn. And this is yet again more evidence suggesting that might be upon us. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
All right. That was a great one. Thank you, Liberal Hive Mind. Oh, boy. My neck is hurting me. And that means rain
to the kingdom
this way pretty soon. I think the rain is going to be coming. My body's hurting, achy. I'm taking the weekend off for sure. I don't, unless something really truly big happens. I'm taking this weekend off. I need to rejuvenate. I had the chiropractor really got to me. I'm really achy. My neck is hurting. Usually when my neck hurts this hard, that means like rain and inclement weather. It's been happening. Like today, we had a little bit of snow, and it was just like a little crazy, you know? So it's like, I'm just hurting. I'm hurting. And let's see what else we got here, because we got more to watch. So let's get to it. Who are we watching next? Who are we watching next? We're going to watch some Jason A.
And I believe we all recognize the fact that we will reach to the kingdom. We will make it to the return of the Messiah, but this will not happen next Thursday. The lives of nations is always precarious and surrounded with threats. Our survival, our endurance is a result of alliances that we forge.
There's unprecedented coordination between Israel and the U.S. and achieved substantial achievements that are changing the reality in the West Bank, in the Middle East and beyond. These achievements are increasing the status of Israel as a superpower more than ever. Through our power in opposition to the power of our enemies, this is what is ensuring our survival. Our threats come and go, but when we become a regional superpower, and in many respects a global superpower, we have the power to push away threats and ensure our future.
Right. So I actually don't say the real power base is Israel. What I say is that the real power base are a collection of secret societies that have an eschatological view of this war. And these secret societies include the Freemasons, which are now called the Rosicrucians and the Knights Templars. They include Jewish organizations called the Sephardim Frankists, who are embedded in religious movements called Shabbat Lubavitch. And then you have the Jesuits. You have a collection of secret societies. And they believe that a war in the Middle East would start a process that would culminate in the end times and the return of Jesus, the arrival of the Jewish Messiah, the building of a one world government. They have different eschatologies, but a lot of their time frames do align. So where they converge is that there has to be a war in the Middle East to kick things off. this war in the Middle East will lead to the defeat of the American Empire, and this will lead to the culmination of the Greater Israel Project, where Israel is able to control the Middle East from the Nile to the Euphrates. Once the Greater Israel Project is in place, it will transform into the Pax Judaica, which is an AI surveillance state. This will eventually lead to the war of Gog and Magog, the destruction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the building of the Third Temple, the return of the Jewish diaspora to Jerusalem, and the arrival of the Jewish Messiah or the Antichrist. So they have the scripted out. And unfortunately, a lot of world events are conforming to this script.
But I don't think it means the religion per se will go away, but it will stop being an ideological force, much the way we see it's being really weakened in its influence in much of the Middle East right now because of Israel's forceful response. But also, I think this will give the opportunity for the Antichrist that we read back in chapters 26 to begin to step on the world scene. And that, I believe, will mark the beginning of the tribulation. And as I said, even the inexplicable rebirth of a nation like Israel. Someone once referred to Israel as God's prophetic timepiece. Another called it ground zero for the end times, which is important because what Scripture tells us that there are 3 major military conflicts, wars that are coming in the last days, and all of them will be centered on Israel. It's not surprising that when the whole Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthi thing began to break out backed by Iran in Israel on October 7th, 2023, it's not surprising that a lot of people are saying, is this Gog and Magog? Is this the beginning of Armageddon? And they began to cobble all of those events, and yet they are 3 very separate events: Gog and Magog, Armageddon, and then finally the final battle at the end of the millennium. And I'll try to expand on that a little bit today. Because the very first conflict the Bible tells us that we should be looking for, and which I believe personally, this is my point of view, is going to either mark the beginning or very close to the beginning of what we call the tribulation period. It'll be the launch point, really. But in Ezekiel 38 and 39, which forecasts a regional war, not an international war, a regional war between Israel and her neighboring nations. In fact, the prophet Zechariah put it this way in chapter 12, verse 2. He says, I will make Jerusalem a cup of drunkenness to all the surrounding peoples. In other words, the idea of the drunkenness is they'll be so intoxicated with both a combination of pride and anger and bitterness and hostility. In fact, one of the prophets called it an ancient hostility that Israel's neighbors have against it. That I'll fill Jerusalem with a cup of drunkenness to all the surrounding peoples. And when they lay siege against Judah and Jerusalem. It's interesting because the word that's used here or translated surrounding in Hebrew literally means those who are in your immediate proximity. The people who live in the neighborhood around you are your surrounding people. And he says, I will cause them to lay siege against Jerusalem. And that's interesting phrasing because what lay siege means is that we're not so much invading as we are harassing you and encircling you and trying to isolate you and separate you from everybody else and everything else. You see, if this conflict were fought today, Ezekiel's list of nations would likely be comprised of a coalition of, well, he talks about the people from the far north. We think automatically of the Russian Commonwealth of States. We know that Russia has been deeply engaged in the Middle East up until with the fall of Syria. Now the Russians have pulled out in large part because they are suffering such severe losses in Ukraine right now. But basically, there are a number of Commonwealth states that are all Islamic. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, we call them the Stans. No besmirchment to anybody named Stan. Just a bummer of a birthmark, that's all I can say. But anyway, but it also includes lists of people like Persia or Iran, the Nile and North African states, Libya, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Turkey, all of them which share an Islamic faith, and all which are likely to support Russia if they so choose to invade against Israel. We're told they invade and are destroyed as a consequence. They don't win, they lose. And what I believe is a prophecy of what I call the death of Islam.
First this morning to the war in the Middle East, the US is sending up to 5,000 more service people and extra warships to the region. Now, it comes after the death of 6 American crew members in Iraq and Iran's consistent attacks on ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
U.S. officials now say the military will deploy an additional 2,500 Marines and another attack ship in the Middle East as fighting intensifies.
We said it would not be a fair fight, and it has not been.
The news of additional troops comes as the U.S. death toll climbs to 13. All 6 service members on board a refueling flight died at a crash in Iraq yesterday. The Pentagon says the aircraft was not brought down by enemy or friendly fire, and the crash is now under investigation.
Bad things can happen. American heroes. All of them.
Meanwhile, large crowds taking to the streets of Tehran for Al-Quds Day, an annual protest against the state of Israel.
People came out today to tell the enemy that we are not afraid.
What is important about this is that these are ground forces. We've talked about ships, we've talked about fighter aircraft, but this is a ground force that also they also have F-35s and V-22 Osprey aboard these ships. But from what we understand, this doesn't mean that the United States is preparing a ground force to go into Iran. This is just a capability, an option that is available to military planners because they always want to have as many forces available as needed. And these Marine units, this 31st MU as it's called, brings a lot of options and a lot of variability to the table. Now, the question is, how long will they be there? And is it possible that we may see further of these units headed out to the Middle East as well?
And Louis, what are you watching for next?
Well, one of the things that we've talked about is what happens to the uranium stockpile. We've heard shifting narratives about how the United States is going to try maybe to use ground forces to try to seize some of the 430 kilograms of enriched uranium that Iran possesses, which most of it is believed to be underground at those facilities that were bombed by the United States.
Their deaths bring the total number of US casualties to at least 13. France is also mourning its first casualty of the conflict. 42-year-old Arnaud Frion killed by an Iranian drone strike in Iraqi Kurdistan. US President Donald Trump claims Vladimir Putin, quote, may be helping Iran a bit. At the same time, the US is easing sanctions on Russia, allowing countries to buy oil and petroleum already loaded and at sea.
Well, President Trump also weighed in on Russia's role in the ongoing conflict. Watch this.
You think Putin is helping him?
I think he might be helping him a little bit. Yeah, I guess. And he probably thinks we're helping Ukraine, right?
And you are, right?
Yeah, we're helping him also. And so he says that. And China would say the same thing. You know, it's like, hey, they do it and we do it, in all fairness.
What's your reaction to that, Ambassador?
Well, if they're helping them in any meaningful way, it's not very successful because, you know, we are kicking Iran's butt right now. So ultimately, I think our military, you know, the greatest in the world, is demonstrating how capable we really are. Iran has been completely decimated in the last 13 days. You know, I grieve obviously for the soldiers that have given the ultimate sacrifice, and we will forever honor them. But at the same time, you know, President Trump was right to take out this regime and their capabilities to make sure that they can't menace the region like they have been for almost 50 years.
What kind of relationship will it take moving forward now to possibly come back to the table? I mean, I'm curious how you then simultaneously solve the issue with Russia if we even think they might be helping Iran at this point. And you make an excellent point. If they are helping, they're not doing a very good job. And we're good with that.
Yeah, I think, you know, President Trump is a diplomacy-first peacemaker, and it's not until he knows there's not a deal to be made that he brings kinetic options to the table. And whether, you know, that is the situation we face right now in Iran, or whether it is to try to solve the Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, there is always, the time for peace is always now. President Trump is always looking for a peace deal.
All right, Jason A., that was a good upload. We're going to go back to back on the Jason A here. So give me a second to set this up. Here we go. Wow.
Sitting
that.
with Jared and sitting with Josh and finding out other pieces of information, I was like, wow, these guys might have really been holding Trump back and being very much a handler right then. They love to just look at me or look at Trump like we're so crazy and that they're the businessmen. So when I think about all of these things that Jared, you know, somehow doesn't get enough credit for with his work, and what is it? His work in Israel or his work in Palestine? What is this? You know where he made these peace treaties? Where was that? Do you know the facts on this right here? So I'm like,
I think that was between Israel and some of the Arab nations.
I just think it was to make money. I don't know. Is that too heavy-handed to put on this platform?
No, that's your opinion. We're not in the censorship business.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. And a couple of days later, I found out that Josh Kushner had 10% of Skims.
Now, I'm not accusing Jared Kushner of being a human trafficker, obviously, but when you look at what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, and you look at what Jared Kushner was doing, sort of being a, whatever you want to call it, right? Like a rainmaker, putting all these people at the table, trying to arrange scenarios to get certain results, working sort of with government, but also outside of government. Would it be completely crazy to say that Jared Kushner is working in an Epstein-like fashion to maintain certain relationships and to build other relationships and to increase the likelihood
in the right way, not in a easy way, like
outcomes
Epstein
happen
did.
on a global chessboard? Do you see Kushner as a figure like that, or am I overstating it?
I think one of the biggest scandals is what's hidden in plain sight. I think that, a story like the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein's relationships with all of these ultra powerful people, and, Ryan has done more reporting than anyone on the Israel connection on this. It captures the imagination, but part of why it's so damning is that it's indicative of something that isn't even a secret conspiracy. That what's hidden in plain sight is that the reason that we're at war against Iran right now is because of the way that the US political system is arranged. It's because of the sameness of policy that exists among the elites of the Democratic Party and the kind of most vicious elements of the Republican Party. This is an enormous indicator of the influence that Israel has over an issue as sensitive of the decision of a state to go to war, where you have, as you mentioned earlier, the Secretary of State mistakenly saying the quiet part out loud that we did in fact go to war for Israel, and then he has to walk it back later, and then Trump has to concoct this ridiculous statement about how the U.S. has been in a state of needing to preempt Iran for 47 years. But what's hidden in plain sight is in a way more damning than the Epstein files. It's that we have a system that produces the kinds of characters that are in power right now. That in the open you have Miriam Adelson being able to purchase American foreign policy and get it done. That you can have a Jared Kushner, and I think you're nailing it there. He is the fixer extraordinaire right now for the U.S. government as a whole, because Trump is the president. And the nexus of corporate power and government, the relationships with the Gulf countries, the relationships with Israel, the political interference around the world, and then the way that they have sort of conducted a coup d'etat in plain sight against the American Constitution, it's like beyond Dick Cheney's wildest dreams. Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld spent their entire lives playing by the wrong set of rules. They wanted to do this, but they made the huge mistake of actually believing they needed to follow the rules. Trump has shattered that illusion. And you don't have to read an Epstein file to see it. It's hidden. It's hidden nowhere anymore. It's just out in the open. And what do we have as an opposition? Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer. What are they doing?
Right.
Trump laughs at them. Trump's running the deck on these people.
Well, there are assigned powers, according to the Bible, over nations. But gosh, I have to tell you something. We've all struggled with the thought of how is the Antichrist ever going to rise with the advent of Islam? Islam believes in global dominance. So the doctrine of Islam doesn't jive with the rise of the Antichrist. You can't have two. Plus, the Jews are not going to accept a Muslim Messiah. They're going to accept a Jewish Messiah as the Antichrist. So if this is the collapse of Islam, remember, Raj, Islam has no promises. They have no Bible. It's a cult. And if that is the case, which it is, if Islam's dissolved, then that opens up the door, Raj, to the advent or the revelation of the Antichrist, which we don't know when he's coming, but we don't see the Antichrist and Islam in parity.
When Jeffrey Epstein died, who replaced him? And then you ask yourself, okay, who is Jared Kushner? And why is he involved in Ukrainian peace negotiations? Why is he an envoy to Israel on behalf of Trump? And why is he participating in the Iranian peace negotiations? Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are envoys who went to Ukraine and negotiated with Putin to end the war. They met with Zelensky to end the war. They are very close with Netanyahu. And then they represented Trump in peace negotiations with the Iranians. Who are these people? Right? Jared Kushner is a replacement for Jeffrey Epstein. And that all makes sense if you think about it that way. And so what are these guys trying to do? They're trying to fulfill eschatology. They're trying to position world events in a certain way that would accelerate the collapse of the world, which is what Jeffrey Epstein did. Remember, we only have at most 50% of his emails. It's possibly, it could be 2% of his emails. We know nothing about.
I believe we all recognize the fact that we will reach to the kingdom. We will make it to the return of the Messiah, but this will not happen next Thursday.
He also said, secondly, that Jerusalem and the Temple Mount will be solidly in Jewish hands and under Jewish control. Luke 21:24, Jerusalem shall no longer be trodden of the Gentiles. The word trodden literally means to be walked upon, but in a desecrating way. It's like something that is sacred and people desecrate it by walking upon it and doing something that defames it or disregards it. He said Jerusalem will no longer be treated as something other than, or the Temple Mount other than what God wanted to be. Now, he says because that's going to continue to be the case until the times of the Gentiles is fulfilled. What is the time of the Gentiles all about? It's God's plan to evangelize the nations. And then last of all, what's interesting to me is it's implied, although not clearly stated, that at that time, sometime during the tribulation, the temple is going to be rebuilt. And it's at that midpoint of the tribulation that the beast will take his image and put it in the holiest of holies in this new rebuilt, restored temple, and he will command the world to worship him and Satan as God. It says in Matthew 24:15, when you see standing in the holy place the abomination that causes desolation spoken of through the prophet Daniel, then let those who are in Judea flee. In Judea flee. Not in Spokane, but Judea. It is then and only then that Jesus tells us that the end will come. And that's when we'll see, when he puts his image in the temple, we'll see the 7 last plagues begin to unfold. And we'll also see it ending with the second coming of Christ, setting his foot upon the earth, upon the Mount of Olives.
Very interesting. Thank you, Jason A. Great upload there. Keep it moving for some more stuff here. Watch. Got like 3 more videos and then we're done for the night. And taking the weekend off. So I'm not going to come on unless something really, really, really big happens. If it's something really, really, really big happens, then that's going to be sucks to report. But anyhow, let's go ahead and check this video here.
We have yet another live event that has also just gotten started. This is there with the U.S. attorney there in Washington, D.C., Janine Pirro, saying that she is now having a Federal Reserve investigation. Let's listen in.
At that point, that 2 grand jury subpoenas were issued to the Federal Reserve, not even to Jerome Powell. Again, No response, no compliance, but instead a woe is me video by Mr. Powell falsely claiming that he was being threatened with criminal indictment. And claiming victim status, Powell proceeds to call his political friends in D.C. and around the world to gin up support for himself, all the while refusing to produce simple documents. Now enter local District Court Judge James Boasberg, whose written decision on its face makes clear his antipathy toward President Trump and this administration. He quashes both subpoenas, thereby prohibiting us from reviewing any records and precluding us from submitting records to the grand jury. That grand jury, of course, comprised of ordinary people. Ladies and gentlemen, no one is above the law. But for the first time, a judge is ruling that a grand jury subpoena, on its face legal in all regards, can be ignored because a judge thinks the subject is beyond reproach. This is a decision that is untethered to the law. It creates chaos where any defendant who wishes to evade an investigation, guilty or not, can allege I'm a victim, I'm being targeted, and therefore you cannot investigate me.
That's
And
bullshit.
if you find the right judge, you'll buy it. This is the antithesis of American justice.
Oh boy.
Exonerating anyone without any records, without an investigation or question is not how our criminal justice system works. This judge has put himself at the entrance door to the grand jury, slamming that door shut, irrespective of the legal process, and thus preventing the grand jury from doing the work that it does. So what is the law? What is the law? According to the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, certainly higher than the court that Boasberg is on, a grand jury, every grand jury, has broad discretion to, quote, investigate merely on suspicion that the law is being violated, merely on suspicion the law is being violated, or because it wants assurance that the law is not being violated. In fact, the court says a grand jury may act on tips and rumors. Right here are the cases and the citations from the highest court in the land. And yet this judge is shockingly requiring the government to show something akin to probable cause, and those are his words, probable cause, in order to justify the issuance of a grand jury subpoena. Folks, probable cause is not and never has been the standard that prosecutors in this country need in order to go into a grand jury. This is not and has never been the law of the land. And so this decision today by Judge Boasberg runs directly afoul of our highest court's admonition that courts and judges must not and cannot saddle grand juries with mini trials and preliminary showings that impede a prosecutor's investigation and thus frustrate the public's interest in the fair and expeditious administration of justice. No one, folks, is above the law. And this outrageous decision will be appealed by the United States Department of Justice. Go ahead, sir.
Do you think that your office's failure to attempt to prosecute 6 members of Congress?
I'm not here to talk about 6 members of Congress. I'm here to talk about the fact that the grand jury has a job. They look at evidence. They decide whether they want to indict. If they don't indict, so be it. And if you want to know what the judge thinks, go ask him. Next question.
Can I get your reaction to statements from Senator Tom Tillis, who you know has been blocking and vowed to continue blocking?
You know, honestly, I don't know and I don't care, and I'll tell you why. I am in a legal lane. All of the rest is white noise. I don't care what they say. I have a job. I have the ability to go into a grand jury. There are questions that the American public and people in D.C. are entitled to know where $1 billion has gone. And that's my focus.
But he is asking for an assurance that the investigation into Powell has ended it. Are you willing to concede?
Did you hear what I just said? Yeah, I just said that this decision will be appealed by the United States Department of Justice. That's the answer to your question.
What crimes exactly are you investigating?
We're looking at 1001, and we're also looking at a statute having to do with fraud, but it's up to the grand jury to make that decision. We're $1 billion over in cost overruns. Are you kidding? $1 billion? We're not talking about huge buildings here. Go ahead.
How large is Trump's pick, though, President Trump?
I don't even know who he is.
So isn't this just essentially holding up President Trump's pick or any forthcoming picks since Senator Tillis said he will not vote?
Okay. I don't know how to explain this, but I'm going to try. I've been a prosecutor, a judge, a DA, and now a United States attorney for well over 3 decades. Politics is not the lane I'm in right now. And I have a charge and an oath to the Constitution. And my job is to present evidence, and I can do so when I can merely on the suspicion that the law is being violated, or even just because I want assurance that it's not. I'm not in those lanes. And I will not allow myself or my staff to be in those lanes. And that's why we brought crime down in this jurisdiction. We are focused on the law. We're focused on the people of the district. We are not focused on politics. Go ahead.
Judge Mosberg, in his opinion, said that you, quote, promptly complied, end quote, with President Trump's apparent direction to prosecute Powell. Can you just state for the public record, how did you have the idea or, the impetus to start this inquiry?
First of all, he's totally wrong in his assessment of the dates, and that's why we're doing a motion to reconsider, because he got his dates wrong. And as far as I'm concerned, this was something that was of public interest. It was something that the Senate Banking Committee wanted information on, and it is something within my jurisdiction and my charge. But I want to tell you a story. When I was a young prosecutor, I was one of the first people to investigate child abuse as a crime. Everyone thought it was a social problem and not a criminal justice problem. The kids are better off with their parents. There was an organization, and that organization didn't have a very good reputation. And it was one of the societies that was out there trying to prevent cruelty to children. And I set up a relationship where they would bring me cases. And people were outraged that I would deal with this organization. And my answer to them 30, 40 years ago, I'll deal with the devil. I'll take a case from the devil if you can give me information that will lead me to possibly find a crime. It doesn't matter where a case comes from. It doesn't matter. I can have a suspicion. I can read the newspaper. I can just want to make sure he didn't commit a crime. So don't make the judge is wrong on his dates. He is wrong. That's why we're not only appealing, we're making a motion to reconsider. Okay, I want to say one more thing, and I think it's important that you guys hear this from me. There's another way of looking at this, and that is that it's not just the public being fed up with this stuff. It's the fact that what we've got are grand jurors who are supposed to hear this, and they haven't been able to hear any of this because someone has decided that they're not entitled to hear this. Can you take this?
Yeah.
Thanks. This process has been
My phone's
arbitrarily
going crazy.
undermined by an activist judge. We have a process. We have been asking for information about a matter that has raised questions in many people's minds. Senate banking, the public, the papers, it doesn't matter. So give me the information so I can assess it. Give me the information so the grand jury, comprised of regular Americans, can say, there's nothing here. And I'll accept it the way I accept other cases. Okay? Whatever it is, we'll abide by it. What we don't accept is a judge standing in front of the door of a grand jury blocking our access, a role that has never been envisioned, a role that will now be used by other defense attorneys around the country, who's going to come in with a client and say, oh, my client is being targeted. Don't you dare go in the grand jury. A judge says, yes, the guy's bathed and washed in immunity, and you can't go after him. The process should have been allowed to run its course, and it wasn't. And shame on them. Oh, cut it out. Do you know how many convictions we've got? Cut it out. You're in one lane. We have cleaned up this city. Yeah, historic, really? I'll tell you what's historic. What's historic is that I prosecute everything other than 10% of the cases, where the United States attorney before me didn't prosecute 67% of the cases. That's what's historic. I'm willing to take a not guilty. I'm willing to take a no true bill, because I'll take all the crimes and put them in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Damn, that's fire right there. All right, we're going to the last video of the night. Going straight to Tyson de la Cruz.
A double shooting took place early Sunday morning.
America, Chicago just had a full-blown action movie weekend. Double shootings on the Red Line, police shootings at the park, a driver plowing into a window in a CTA bus, and Mayor Brandon Johnson's solution is to bring out the violence interrupters.
Violence interrupters stopped riders exiting the CTA Red Line at 79th Street. They say they'll be riding trains at all hours to be vigilant for the public.
We would like to let everybody know also, if we were present, there's a chance we could have de-escalated that particular situation.
Now, for those of you that are new here and don't know what a violence interrupter is, don't worry, I'm about to explain it. And when I explain it, you'll understand exactly why Chicago looks like the way that it does.
Mayor Brandon Johnson says today wasn't about taking a victory lap. His team, the 5th District Police Department, and community violence intervention groups say communication, collaboration, and coordination are the 3 keys to success.
What is up, guys? Tyson de la Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Brandon Johnson held a round table about 3 months ago, patting himself on the back about crime going down. Then this weekend happened, and every weekend after the round table happened. It's like Boys in the Hood. When that saxophone hit, you got to dip.
What happened?
let me walk you through what a normal weekend looks like in Brandon Johnson's Chicago. Sunday morning, red line, 79th Street Station. A group of people get into an argument. Guns come out, obviously. 2 men shot, seriously wounded. 3 people are arrested. 2 weapons recovered. And here's the cherry on top. The CTA is already on federal notice to submit a crime reduction plan by March 19th, or get this, lose $50 million in funding.
Anybody that brings a gun on a CTA train, if it's an illegal gun, that particularly means they wanted to shoot or maybe hurt somebody. Even though at night you don't have as many people on the train, but at night that's a crime of opportunity. Most of the people that board the trains, especially the people that have criminal tendencies, criminally minded people, they may say, look, no one's out here, I'll just go for it.
The violence interrupters just described perfectly why Chicago fails. At night, with fewer people around, criminal-minded individuals think, nobody's here, I'll just go for it. And the solution isn't former gang members riding trains. It is police presence, okay? But wait, same weekend, completely different part of the city.
Officers were trying to stop a driver who was connected to a separate shooting that happened earlier in the day. I want you to take a look at this video, though. This comes from the Citizen app. We know this happened just before 6 o'clock last night near Homan and Chicago Avenue in the Humboldt Park neighborhood. Police say the driver they were trying to stop took off from police.
Connected to a separate shooting means that there were multiple incidents fueling this particular situation. At this park, a driver connected to another shooting runs into police, hits a woman, then hits a CTA bus, hits an unmarked squad car. Officers open fire, suspect dies, and they find a gun in his car. 2 completely separate violent incidences. 1 weekend, 1 city. Okay, now I have to explain this because if you're new here, you need to understand what's about to happen in Chicago and why it's not going to work. Violence interrupters. Here's the concept. You take people from the community, and I mean from the community, former gang members, felons, maybe even current or former drug dealers, and you pay them city money to ride trains, to step in when things get heated. No, not police, not trained law enforcement. No, a street guy, a former gang member, getting a government paycheck. And look, I'm not saying every single one of them have bad intentions, but if you've been following this channel for some length of time, you already know we've covered stories about these quote unquote violence interrupters getting caught, still doing hood rat things while it's on the city's dime. Same people hired to stop crime are committing crime. Make it make sense.
They say they've already intervened and prevented shootings on CTA trains. And we have this information just in from the Chicago Police Department. 18-year-old Maurice Dodd of Chicago has been charged with 1 felony weapons charge and also resisting and obstructing a Chicago police officer. Chicago police have stepped up their patrols across the CTA system.
They say nobody verified this. There's no data. They say they've been preventing shootings. No verification, no data, no accountability, just their word. And Chicago's paying for it with your tax dollars while the guy who just got shot riding the red line is in the hospital.
18-year-old Maurice Dodd of Chicago faces multiple charges, and the CTA is on notice. The Federal Transit Administration directed the CTA to submit an aggressive crime reduction plan by March 19th or face losing as much as $50 million in federal funding. This came after the horrific burning of a female CTA passenger and a fatal stabbing on the Blue Line. Violence interrupters say they want to be part of crime prevention.
So the one suspect has unlawful weapons charges, but did they get the shooter?
Not sure. They did arrest 3 people right after the shooting. Police say this investigation is not over yet.
Notice the reporter said investigation is not over. They charged an 18-year-old with weapons possessions, obviously not shooting. They still haven't confirmed they got the shooter, which means the person who actually pulled the trigger on 2 men, possibly, maybe, is still walking around Chicago right now. Now, here's the part I need you to pay real close attention to, because this is the part where Chicago politicians do what they do best: manipulate the numbers.
Homicides are down 25%. Shootings have dropped 15.4%. Robberies are down 23.5%. Carjackings have fallen nearly 67%. Police have also recovered more than 40% more guns so far this year than at this point last year. City leaders say it's proof the strategy is working.
They're simply throwing up numbers, not explaining how they're being calculated. Oh, don't worry, guys. Crime is down. Fantastic. Then explain this weekend. Explain last weekend and the weekend before that and every other weekend in Chicago, because those numbers look great on a freaking spreadsheet and terrible on the ground. And obviously, here's what they won't tell you about Chicago's crime statistics. When there aren't enough cops to respond to calls, crimes, obviously they don't get reported properly. When you reclassify aggravated assaults as simple assaults, the violent crime number miraculously goes down. When you uncategorize incidences, your stats, wow, miraculously look better. And your city looks safe on paper while residents are getting shot in the back on a train. Chicago has been bleeding officers for years. We're talking about retirements, resignations. The morale is absolutely in the gutter. Fewer cops means obviously fewer reports. Fewer reports means better statistics for the politicians. It's not actually that crime went down. It's that the system to document it collapsed.
Like, we know this is not something that can be fixed overnight or happens overnight. This is why we've been intentional about working together with all our community partners over here.
Not something that they can fix overnight. They've been saying this for a freaking decade. That phrase has been said by every single mayor in Chicago since Harold Washington. Meanwhile, the families of two men shot on the Red Line this Sunday aren't interested in your timeline.
In 2025 alone, 197 mediations were conducted. 44% were resolved with no retaliation expected. More than 1,000 Austin youth were hired through One Summer Chicago.
Let's do the math that they don't want you to do. 197 mediations. They're celebrating 44% success rate. That means 56% of disputes that they intervene still have retaliation expected. More than half. And they want to give credit for that. I want to ask you guys in the chat, in what world is 44% a success rate? If your mechanic fixed your car 44% of the time, you need to find a new mechanic. Now, I saved the best for last. 3 months ago, remember that, Brandon Johnson sat down the head of a roundtable on the 5th District Police Station. Let's see what he said.
This is probably by far the first time that we've had a police administration that, in my opinion, have seen the community as an asset and not as an adversary, and they've worked to build relationships.
This, my friends, is a low bar, and it's still not working. A community leader saying this is the first time police have seen this community as an asset. The first time, you guys. Chicago has been dealing with this for 50 years, and right now, it's the first time. That's not a compliment. That is an indictment of every single administration before Johnson, and a warning that whatever they're doing now is not enough either.
Reducing violence is not limited to reducing shootings and homicides. These folks around this table, we're trying to transform communities, right? And so if violence is less in a community, but people don't have meaningful jobs or access to healthcare, that association with violence is still material.
He just redefined reducing violence to include jobs and healthcare. So he never has to fail on safety. There it is, the escape hatch. Brandon Johnson just told you that reducing violence isn't just about shootings. It's about jobs. It's about healthcare access, which means when two men get shot on the Red Line, he can point to a summer job program and say, we're working on it, my friend. You can't hold him accountable for crime because he's changing the definition of success.
This cell phone video provided to ABC7 shows the tense moments that led up to that shooting, and we want to warn you, it may be difficult to watch.
Hey, don't shoot him, shorty. Hey.
Witness cell phone video shared with ABC7 shows Chicago police officers with guns drawn, pounding on the doors of a white Mercedes. Officers are heard yelling, "Get out of the car." Then 6 gunshots were fired.
Once the shots went off, I yelled for her to run in the house. And then we just hid in the house for a few minutes until it cleared off.
That is a quote unquote safe city for Brandon Johnson. This is what he's building. Neighbors ducking for cover while police chase ends in a shooting. And the media is running with police should have de-escalated the situation when the driver was fleeing a separate shooting. and hit a woman on the street. America, here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Chicago doesn't have a crime problem. Chicago has a government problem. Period. End of story. The Federal Transit Administration is threatening to pull $50 million from the CTA if they don't fix crime by March 19th. That is a federal agency telling Chirac that they failed so badly at basic public safety that Washington needs to step in. And Brandon Johnson's answer, more violence interrupters, you guys, more round tables, more statistics measured by mediations instead of arrests, more redefining what safe means so the numbers look better. Here's the prediction, and mark my words, March 19th comes and goes. Johnson submits a 5-page plan with bullet points about community transformation. The feds accept it, and nothing changes because change would require admitting the approach is wrong. And Democrats, they can't do that. Meanwhile, the same 18-year-old who got arrested on 79th Street, he'll be out before the cameras leave the scene. The city's not broken because of lack of programs. It's broken because criminals don't fear consequences. Full stop. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Great episode once again. Yeah, it's just Chicago's a shit show. We know that already. Chicago is a mess, and I'm a mess too because I'm tired. I'm done with the show. Close, like 2 hours and 5 minutes. We was close to the 2-hour mark, but yeah, I'm taking the weekend off unless something really, really, really big happens. I'm taking the weekend off. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your time. If you have to work, enjoy the weekend working. If you don't, well, enjoy the weekend no matter what. We're supposed to get some crazy rain on Monday, so I'm already starting to feel this energy because it was like kind of like snow rain type of event today here, and it's just my body was just really achy. My neck really hurts, and usually when that happens, rain is coming. So I'm gonna take this weekend to rejuvenate and get myself ready for Monday. So enjoy. I'll see y'all next week. So have a good morning, good afternoon, and a good night. And I'll catch y'all on the flip side. And Monday, 7:30ish, depending, because the system is acting crazy, computer's been acting crazy, and I was delayed today by like almost an hour. So it's just, it is what it is. Have a good weekend. Peace.